You come home, keys still in your hand, and your dog is already at the door before you finish turning the lock. The tail is a blur, the whole back half of its body is moving, and your brain jumps straight to one sentence. He missed me. He loves me. But that translation might be dangerously incomplete. Because in dogs, a wagging tail does not automatically mean happiness. It can mean excitement. It can mean stress. It can even mean conflict. And if you've been misreading that one signal, you may be misreading several others too. The quick lick, the sleepy-looking yawn, even the soft look in your dog's eyes. So here is the uncomfortable question. What if your dog has been speaking clearly this whole time, in full sentences, and you have simply been reading the wrong dictionary? You probably think the hard part is figuring out whether your dog loves you. It isn't. Dogs are one of the clearest non-human examples. Researchers have tested using the same methods developed for studying human infants and their caregivers. The bond is real. The hard part is that most owners never learned the dog half of the language. You grew up reading human faces. Smiles mean happy. Eye contact means connection. Stillness means calm. None of those rules transfer cleanly to a species that talks with its ears, its tail, and the whites of its eyes. For this video, call that gap between what a dog is actually saying and what a human assumes it's saying the mistranslation gap. It's not a term you'll find in a textbook. It's just a useful way to name what's going on. Dogs aren't unclear. Humans default to reading dog behavior through human grammar, and the two grammars don't match. Think about how strange that mismatch actually is once you say it out loud. In humans, bared teeth almost always mean hostility. In dogs, it can mean the opposite. An appeasement signal, a way of looking smaller and safer, not more dangerous. In humans, a fixed, unblinking stare can be read as confidence or intensity. In a dog, a hard stare held too long is one of the more reliable predictors of an escalating conflict. Two species, standing 3 feet apart, running 2 different operating systems, and the manual was never handed to either one of them. Today, you are going to see 9 signs that fall into this gap. 4 of them are signals researchers often treat as stress, appeasement, or discomfort signals, depending on context. A few more are signals so quiet that owners miss them completely, even though they are stronger evidence of real attachment than anything on the first list. And in the middle, there is a genuine argument still happening in animal behavior science about where this ability even came from. An argument between researchers that, as of this recording, has not been settled. Let's start with the one that looks the most like a Hallmark card. Sign 1. You wrap your arms around your dog for a photo. Everyone in the room says, "Aw." Your dog's head turns slightly away from you, but its eyes stay locked on the camera, and you can see a crescent of white along the edge. That expression has a name in the research: whale eye. Behavioral scientists studying facial expressions in dogs classify it as a fear or avoidance signal. The look a dog gives when it wants to create distance from something uncomfortable and physically cannot, because 2 arms are wrapped around it. The photo everyone is calling cute might be less of a love letter and more of a tiny hostage note. Here's the thing that makes it worse. Most owners never catch it, because they're not looking at the dog's face when the picture gets taken. They're looking at the camera, checking their own smile, completely missing the one piece of information the dog was trying to hand them for free. Sign 2, the lick. Your dog licks your hand, your face, your chin, and you call it a kiss. Sometimes it genuinely is affection. But researchers draw a distinction most owners never learn: when a dog licks its own lips or nose with no food or water anywhere nearby. That quick tongue flick is classified as a displacement behavior, a documented calming signal dogs use to self-soothe when they're uneasy, to broadcast peaceful intentions to whatever's making them nervous. It's often so fast that you'd miss it if you blinked. Tiny lick you've been reading as a kiss might actually be a white flag. Run up the poll in real time. Sign 3, the yawn. You're mid-training session, or you've been holding your dog a little too long on the couch and it yawns wide, jaw stretching, eyes half closing. You think, "Aw, sleepy baby." But a yawn that happens outside of actual tiredness is one of the most consistent stress signals in the behavioral literature, a way dogs try to release tension and calm themselves down when they feel pressured. Your dog isn't bored, and it isn't tired. It may be politely asking for the scene to end. Sign 4. And now, back to the tail, because this is where it gets specific enough to matter, and specific enough to actually change how you look at your own dog tonight. Most owners treat the wag as a single signal. Wagging equals happy, still equals not happy. But a wagging tail is closer to a speedometer than a happiness meter. It measures how emotionally activated your dog is, not which emotion it's feeling. A slow, loose, full-body wag with soft eyes is one thing. A stiff, high, rapid wag with a tense body and forward-leaning weight is something else entirely, same tail. Opposite message. The tail is not lying to you, you just haven't been asking it the right question. In 2007, a team of Italian researchers at the University of Bari ran something stranger than a survey. They filmed 30 pet dogs and measured, frame by frame, exactly how far each wag swung to the left versus the right. What they found was not random. When dogs looked at their owner, the tail swung further to the right. When they looked at an unfamiliar, dominant dog, it swung further to the left. The direction of the wag was tracking which side of the dog's brain was doing the talking, the left hemisphere driving the approach response, the right hemisphere driving the retreat. Dogs don't just wag, they wag with a side. And it doesn't stop there. A follow-up study by some of the same researchers put other dogs in front of screens showing video of that same left-leaning or right-leaning wag and measured their heart rate while they watched. Watching a left-biased wag on another dog raised their pulse and produced signs of anxiety. A right-biased wag didn't. Dogs can read the asymmetry in each other's tails from across a room, in real time, without a single bark exchanged, while the humans standing right next to them have no idea the conversation is even happening. Which means the tail you've been trusting your whole life is not a tiny furry lie detector telling you one simple thing. It's a live broadcast with a direction, a frequency, and an audience that's been listening far more closely than you have. If this is the first time you're seeing your dog's signals this way, you're not going to look at photos of your own dog the same way again. Which is exactly why it's worth sticking around. Because the next sign is the one most owners accidentally create themselves, without realizing they're the one sending the mixed message. Sign 5. And there's an inverse problem hiding in all of this, and it might be the most unfair one on the whole list. Some dogs pull their lips up and show their front teeth in what looks, to an untrained eye, exactly like a snarl. It's called a submissive grin, and researchers distinguish it clearly from an aggressive display. It usually comes bundled with a lowered head, a loose, low wagging tail, and soft, squinted eyes. The whole body saying, I am small and friendly, not back away. A real snarl comes with a stiff body, a hard stare, and a curled lip over the canine teeth specifically, with none of the softness underneath it. Plenty of owners never learn to separate the two. They see teeth, panic, and pull away. So the one moment a dog is actively broadcasting affection and appeasement is often the exact moment it gets punished for looking dangerous. The dog did nothing wrong. We just misread the alphabet. And it paid the price for our mistake. Sign 6. The habit almost every dog owner has watched their dog perform without a second thought. Your dog follows you from the kitchen to the bathroom to the bedroom every single day, planting itself outside whichever door you disappear behind, and you take it as proof of devotion. Sometimes it is. But researchers are careful here because that exact behavior, constant anxious tracking of your location, also shows up in dogs dealing with separation anxiety, who aren't expressing love so much as managing a fear of being left alone that never fully switches off. Two very different internal states, identical footage. You genuinely cannot tell which one you're looking at from the following behavior alone. So if following you everywhere isn't reliable proof, what is? Sign 7. In the late 1990s, researchers adapted a test originally built to study human infants and their mothers, and ran it on dogs instead. A dog and its owner enter an unfamiliar room. The owner leaves. The owner comes back. What the researchers were actually watching for wasn't whether the dog got upset when the owner left. Almost all of them did to some degree, and that part turns out to be almost useless for telling dogs apart. The real signal was in what the dog did while the owner was still in the room. The dogs, classified as securely attached, didn't cling to their owner's leg the entire time. They explored, they sniffed the corners of the room, checked out a new object sitting on the floor, wandered a few feet away, and came back using the owner as a home base to return to, not a leash to stay permanently tied to. That's called the secure base effect, and it was first described in human children. It shows up in dogs almost exactly the same way, which means the calmest dog in the room might be the one who loves you most. Not because it doesn't care where you are, because it's so confident you're not going anywhere, that it feels safe enough to go look at something else for a minute. Sometimes love doesn't look like holding on. Sometimes it looks like a dog sniffing a chair in peace. Sign 8 isn't really a sign you can check on your own dog. It's the piece of context that explains why this whole ability exists in the first place, and it's where the story gets complicated. For years, one of the cleanest explanations was domestication. Dogs didn't just learn to live near humans, They evolved to be unusually good at bonding with us. A study in 2005 tested this directly. Hand-raised wolf puppies and hand-raised dog puppies run through the same reunion test at 16 weeks old. The dogs clearly preferred their caregiver over a stranger. The wolves didn't show the same clear discrimination. That result said, "This isn't just any canine bonding with whoever feeds it. This is something dogs became especially good at." But then the story got messier. In 2022, a different research team tested older hand-raised wolves, 23 weeks instead of 16, and reported attachment-like behavior toward familiar handlers similar to what's seen in dogs. Other researchers pushed back in print, arguing the newer test didn't meet the same strict conditions as the original and didn't prove the same thing. The 2022 team responded, defending their methods. That argument is not resolved. It's happening in journals right now between people who've spent their careers on exactly this question. So the honest answer isn't wolves can never do this. It's also not dogs are just wolves with better PR. The honest answer is that dogs are unusually built for this relationship. But the line between dog and wolf is more complicated than people used to think. Sign 9, the last one. And it's the quietest sign on this entire list, because you cannot see it with your eyes. You can only measure it in a lab. In some studies using that same reunion test, researchers have looked for physiological differences between securely and insecurely attached dogs, stress hormone patterns, heart rate, blood pressure. The results lean in one direction. Insecurely attached dogs tend to show more signs of physiological stress than securely attached ones. But these are small studies, often 20 dogs or fewer, and not every measure reaches a clean, decisive result. The point isn't that you can diagnose love from a blood test. It's that the strongest evidence for attachment is often quieter and harder to photograph than the behaviors owners actually post online. So here's where all 9 of these land. Once you put them next to each other, your dog was never hiding how it felt. You were just reading the wrong dictionary. Think of it like a letter written in a language you never learned, sitting in your hands the entire time. You could see the handwriting. You could tell someone had gone to the trouble of writing it. You just couldn't read a word of it. So you guessed at the meaning based on how the letters looked. And some of your guesses happened to be wrong in exactly the direction that made you feel good. The whale eye during the hug, the lip lick, the yawn, the frantic wag. None of those were your dog lying to you, or the letter lying to you. They were your dog telling the truth, in a language built for other dogs that you'd been translating with the wrong dictionary the whole time. And the quiet stuff, the calm exploring, the dog confident enough to look away from you for a minute, that was the truth too. It was just written in smaller handwriting, in the parts of the letter you never thought to check. If the reveal here is true, it changes a few concrete things about how you read your own dog, starting today. Check its resting tail position first, before you try to read any single wag. Because a dog with a naturally high or low tail carriage will look off, compared to a chart that assumes every dog starts from the same neutral. Watch the whole dog during affection, not just whether the tail is moving. Ears, eyes, and body weight tell you more than the tail alone ever will. If you see whale eye during a hug, treat that as information, not an overreaction. It's worth loosening your grip, not tightening it. Stop treating a still, quiet dog as an uninterested dog. Stillness next to you in a room it's allowed to leave might be the strongest compliment it can pay you. If your dog goes exploring the second you sit down in a new place, resist the urge to read that as indifference. It may be the clearest proof of trust it has. And the next time your dog yawns during a hug or a training session, take it as your cue to ease off for a minute, not as a sign to try harder. Because forcing affection onto a dog that's showing you a stress signal doesn't prove your love. It just teaches the dog that the signal doesn't work, that saying "I'm not comfortable" gets ignored either way. And a dog that learns its signals don't work stops sending them as clearly. Not because it trusts you less, because it's learned you're not listening. So think back to that moment at the door, the tail flying, the sound, the sentence your brain writes before you've even set your bag down. That moment might really be love. Dogs are entirely capable of it, and the research backs that up more than it undercuts it. But now you know the tail alone was never proof. The proof was somewhere quieter, in the dog that explores instead of clings, in the calm that doesn't need to perform for anyone, in the parts of the story that don't make it into the photo. Your dog was never speaking a foreign language. You just downloaded the wrong translation app. Now you've got the update. If this changed how you're going to look at your own dog today, subscribe for more deep dives like this one, and send it to someone whose dog does that exact whale eye thing in every family photo. And leave a comment. Which one of these 9 signs did you think was love? There's one behavior we didn't fully unpack today, because it deserves its own investigation. The fact that so many dogs choose to sleep pressed against the humans they trust most. What that actually means, psychologically, for both of you, is the next video on screen.